Hi everyone. In case you don't
Oh,
know, I am Rox, and today, sorry for the not as impressive video. This week has been quite busy. However, I am bringing something that thought everyone would want to discuss, and that is a future game for Ruby. Now, obviously, we've played I have played Arrowfell and Grim Eclipse. I have 100% both games to completion, and my friend here today, Evan, has
yep,
also played Grim Eclipse
yep,
to the max.
yep.
So, as as much discussion, we have just kind of been talking today about what really we think a sequel would be, and what
Or a successor.
yeah, successor, sequel, something like that. Something to, push the uh, series forward. And, to be fair, it's really uncertain if we get a game, but,
Or if we get a continuation, we don't
yeah.
know yet.
Even Volume 10 is kind of up in the air, to be honest. But that's why we put the hashtag there. So, yeah.
Yep.
Anyway, so, Evan, starting off, what I think the most important, not the most important thing to narrow down, but just something that kind of dictates how the rest of the game is going to feel
Yep.
is what time it should be set in.
That is a good question.
Yeah.
Uh,
Now, what would you prefer? Because you were.
Honestly, I'd probably say between like volume 7 and 8.
Okay.
The Great Eclipse seems to have taken place somewhere after volume 2,
Yeah,
probably.
it takes place between 2 and 3.
Yeah.
Now, I think it should take place during the Volume 7 time skip just because there's so
Yep.
much time, which I'm guessing you're kind of like, you're in the
Yeah.
same boat.
Yep.
Yeah. Now, I don't know. It's just one of those things where it feels like since there's time there, you can obviously place something there, meaning
Yeah.
that there's uh, actual substance to
Yeah.
use.
Because, I mean, if you were going between volumes 8 and 9, there's really not much.
Yeah. Um, Now, for example, one thing we both, I think, collectively agreed on was we would prefer a bigger roster.
Right.
Now, we just have to debate on who.
Who should be in the roster? Besides the obvious that make the most sense.
Yeah, Team Ruby, Team Juniper are obviously going to be there, right? That
Right.
makes sense. But then you have characters like Winter, Crow, uh, Ironwood, the Aesops, and depending on if you want to make it non-canon or not, you could include Team Sun, Team Coffee, anything like that, really.
Right.
But since it was initially designed, Grim Eclipse was designed to be canon, and Arrowfell, you could argue, is canon, it would just make more sense to, follow continuity. So that
Yeah.
leaves us with all the huntsmen and huntresses in Atlas. So,
Which would probably also include someone like Penny.
yeah, Penny.
Yeah.
Let's get the big one out of the way. Do you think it is fair to have Pyrrha return or not?
I don't know. Because Pier returning would cement it as non-canon. But
Yeah,
if we want it to be canon, then Pier can't be in the game.
yeah,
But then if Pier's not in the game, who do we replace her with?
yeah. Because who takes the next spot in Juniper? I heard.
Because it can't be Rwby, because Ruby's in Team Ruby.
Yeah.
Obviously.
A lot of people. Technically, you could argue Oscar, but Oscar doesn't do a whole lot of combat. So
Right.
it would be really. I feel like it would be difficult to give him a moveset. But
Yeah.
vice versa, Penny has never really seemed like one of the team. But
Right.
you could argue, and it also then keeps the same name, right?
Then you keep the same acronym.
Yeah.
Juniper.
Yeah. So I feel like you could go either way.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Either way.
the real one is, who else do you include? Because I feel like a
Right.
third, maybe even a fourth team if we got really, really, really lucky. Like, but that would most likely probably be DLC.
Yeah, there'd probably be someone like Winter, Crow,
Yeah.
Ironwood,
I think
people like that. The Aesops.
well, you probably could do you could do like a professional, like high level huntsman tier where it's Winter, Crow, Ironwood, and Clover. Those four.
And then
The
the rest
Aesops.
of, and then the Aesops, which would be the other four.
Yeah. You
Because yeah, it would have to be in the form of DLC.
pretty well. I feel like that wouldn't. You know.
It would make sense.
Yeah. But
Because
although
I doubt it would be base game.
yeah.
Although maybe the Aesops would be base game and the professionals would be DLC. I don't know.
That yeah, it could be either or.
Yeah.
I do wonder what kind. One thing that I was thinking about though is cutscenes, right?
Right. Yeah.
I really, really would love to see some cutscenes. However,
Yeah.
it's expensive,
Yeah.
and Rooster Teeth doesn't have that much money.
Because
So
do we want to sacrifice characters for cutscenes or cutscenes for characters?
yeah, I
Is
don't.
what it comes down to.
Yeah, I really
'Cause, I
don't
mean,
know.
they can always just make the characters DLC at the end of the day.
That is true. That is true. Although I wonder how.
And then they make more money.
I wonder how people would react to that, however. Because,
Right.
well, for certain things, like, if they put team... The thing is, once they start adding stuff, the game is kind of going to lose its niche. Because the thing is with Grim Eclipse, it's literally $20, you know?
Yeah, it's $20. There are 8 playable characters.
Yeah,
Well, including DLC, there's 8.
yeah. Although I would argue it's not a very polished game.
Yeah.
It definitely has a lot of problems. However, I think that with a successor like this, it would
Fix the problems that Grim Eclipse had.
yeah, it would fix
and improve on it.
it would fix most of the problems, I feel.
Yeah.
Plus, with that, you can add things like cutscenes. You can add,
Yep.
and then with the extra
You can have-
characters,
You can add skill trees that actually make sense. Like, why does Yang have a range mastery if she has shotguns?
that is true.
Like,
Especially when
what?
I think someone can fact check me on this.
Someone must have been some sort of inside joke. There's no way.
Oh, 100%. But then you have other stuff, right? Like, you could have a better campaign. Like, one thing a lot of people have brought up is that Watts literally has never interacted with Team Rwby. Like, at all. You wanna
Right.
when he reacted to them? Was in the non-canon DC movies. Like, the one time Watts interacts with our main heroes as a main villain is when
Is it the DC movies
Yeah.
that aren't canon?
yeah, especially since he has a direct connection. He is one of the reasons Penny is dead, you know?
Right.
So I feel like having that sort of interaction between her and Penny Watts and Penny
Her.
and Watts and Rwby is like, I feel like it would greatly benefit everything. You know?
Yeah. Because like Penny could not be a playable character, but could be part of the story.
That is true. Ugh. However, I gotta be honest, I feel as though if they were to fill out the roster for Team Juniper, I feel like
They
they
would
would.
have to include Penny.
I feel like they would pick Penny over Oscar, because not only is
Because Penny at least has fought people and
Yeah.
has abilities that we know about.
yeah,
Oscar hasn't really done it.
he has not done much. Plus, he doesn't like. I don't know. He's not really a combative type, and also, they don't like doing that much stuff with him. You know,
Right.
they would much rather design a new character than I feel explore Oscar, which is
Yeah.
just kind of a byproduct of they don't seem too fond of the character. They more
Right.
prefer him as a plot device, but
Yeah, and that's essentially what he is at this point. Is he's just a plot device.
yeah. However, then again, a game could also flesh him out, but I don't really know. Also,
Right.
I think that having another game in Atlas would kind of cement it as a big arc. Because one thing I've noticed right now is Beacon gets obviously a lot of attention. The Beacon arc, right? Then there's volumes 4, 5, and 6. That is the Haven arc. Yes, because they make
Haven.
it. They make it. Yeah, thank you. So we have the Beacon arc and the Haven arc. Both of those have received fan art, merch, all the stuff. They have. I would argue both of those two arcs are more iconic than the Atlas arc right now. However, the thing is that the Atlas arc, volumes 7, 8, and 9, are actually the longest, which is odd. Now, the reason they, like, someone made a joke about this not too long ago about the girls have been in these same outfits for the past 5 years. Problem is, that's not really a byproduct of, per se, a long arc. It's more so of the fact that, well, the break between volume 8 and 9 was the longest break Rwby has ever done between volumes. Which, to be fair, I think they need. I like the direction they're going right now, because I think it's a really bad idea to make an entire season of a show in 1 year. I feel like that would cause burnout and overwork and underpay and overtime, which Rooster Teeth has suffered from in the past. So I think doing stuff like that would just cause more problems. However, on the other end, Rwby is by far their most popular franchise, and that's why I brought up the idea of a video game, because I feel that would help increase
the popularity of it.
Yeah, and it would keep it
keep it relevant.
It would also keep it in everyone's mind. Everyone would remember, like, you know?
Yeah.
Similar to while technically there was a massive break between Volume 8 and Volume 9, we had to Ice Queen them in the middle, right?
Right.
So it kind of carried some momentum over. And between Volume 9 and hopefully Volume 10, we did have both Justice League movies, you know? And I feel having an additional video game would just kind of help everything. Although that would be another video game set in Atlas, which you can either take or leave, right?
Right.
I don't know. Is there anything you're particularly looking for in a Rwby video game, to be honest, or?
Like I said earlier, skill trees that make sense.
Yeah.
Like.
Well, I think that can also just... Like, I think the base idea of Grim Eclipse is not a horrible one. A 4-person team fighting monsters that fits right at home with Rwby, because that's kind of what the show was initially pitched as, right?
Yeah.
Now, taking that into video game format shouldn't be too hard. It's just, well, it is a relatively small game, and I feel like if they had the budget of Arrowfell and were able to put it into Grim Eclipse, or a game like Grim Eclipse, you could get a really spectacular game out of it.
Yeah. Yeah, because it would definitely have more polish than Grim Eclipse.
Yeah, Grim
Not that
Eclipse
Grim
has.
Eclipse is bad.
Yeah,
It's just that Grim Eclipse is weird at times with some of its choices.
Yeah, and it has many, many problems, right?
Yeah.
It's not a horrible game, but
it's not the best game I've ever played.
Yeah.
But it wasn't so bad that I wanted to throw myself out the window.
Yep.
But it was interesting.
Yeah. I don't know. I do wonder what is next for the franchise. Obviously, commercially, or obviously show-wise, but in the terms of merchandise, tie-in games, all that stuff.
Currently, it's all up in the air. No one knows what's going on.
Yeah.
So.
However, I do think they have an opportunity, because here's the thing: Volume 10 will take time to make, regardless of how you feel, regardless of whether you want. It will take time, and that is quite all right. It's just, now that it will take time, maybe it is best for the group to focus on other things. We brought up this idea before, but a spin-off novel about Pyrrha, a tie-in video game, more additional books to flesh out the world, stuff of that sort. I just to make gaps in between seasons much shorter, and keeping the momentum
much shorter.
Yeah, and keeping the momentum with Rwby strong, because I think as the driving force of Rooster Teeth, they kind of need to keep that going forward, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Plus, also, I didn't add this before, but with all the kind of unique characters we brought up that could appear in Atlas, we could get some really unique move styles,
Yeah.
Like Vine, Ironwood, and Crow all play so differently. However, like Winter, I don't know how she would really be played as, because she could be, obviously you could make her very similar to Weiss. On the other hand, you could change her drastically, considering she almost always summons, and she loves riding her summonings.
So you could just turn her into a summoner, and her movement is based off her summons.
Yeah, whereas keeping...
Which I think would be really neat.
Yeah.
Whereas Weiss is more about glyphs, so you could have her be really fast with, like, her time glyphs.
Yeah.
Stuff like that.
Yeah. And that's just it. You open up a whole sea of opportunities when you make a game like Grim Eclipse. And to be honest, even Arrowfell, to an extent, I just feel that adding another branch of DLC or a slightly longer game would have improved it, but that's also just me. But yeah, I think we've gotten almost everything off the table, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Any closing thoughts or no?
Not really.
Alrighty then. That is all for this week, folks. Again, I'm sorry. I know this video isn't up to my normal quality. However, it's been a busy week, and I'm just trying to, balance my work along with what I do for you guys. And I hope everyone can have a good day. I will see you guys later.